In the year 2147, humans had spread out across many stars. They built homes on distant worlds and called them colonies. One of these worlds was New Haven. People knew it better as Epsilon 9 on old maps, but to the 2 billion people who lived there, it was home. The city of Haven Prime stood tall with shining towers, wide parks, and busy streets full of life. Families walked together, children played in open squares, and ships came and went from the spaceports every day. It was a place of hope and hard work. Far above, in the cold emptiness of space, a huge alien ship moved slowly into the system. The ship belonged to the Galactic Concord. This group of old alien races thought they ruled the galaxy. They saw humans as young and loud. Humans grew fast, built too much, and did not follow the old rules. The Concord leaders decided it was time to teach a lesson. Admiral Kazoff stood on the bridge of the vanguard of order. His tall, thin body was covered in dark scales. His yellow eyes looked at the view screen. The planet below looked quiet. Their old charts said Epsilon 9 was just a small mining post with machines and no real people. A perfect place for a warning shot. Nothing too big. Just enough to scare the humans and make them stay in their place. "Prepare the plasma lance," Kazoth ordered in a low voice. "Target the main relay station on the surface. One shot, no more." The crew moved fast. Lights blinked on control panels. The big gun at the front of the ship hummed with power. A bright blue-white beam built up inside the barrel. It grew stronger every second. Then, with a silent flash in the vacuum of space, the beam shot out. It crossed the distance in moments and hit the planet. On New Haven, it was a normal morning in Haven Prime. The sun had just risen over the tall buildings. People drank coffee in small cafes. Kids ran to school with backpacks bouncing. Captain John Harris walked down a busy street with his wife, Laura. John was a tall man with short brown hair and calm blue eyes. He commanded the battleship Independence, but today he was on leave. He held Laura's hand. She smiled up at him. Laura had dark hair and a warm laugh. She worked as an engineer fixing city systems. They planned to eat lunch together and talk about their next trip to Earth. The sky changed in an instant. A blinding white light filled the horizon. No sound at first, just pure white that burned the eyes. Then the ground shook. A huge roar came like thunder from everywhere. The plasma beam struck the equatorial zone, right through the heart of Haven Prime. Buildings turned to dust in seconds. Streets melted. Fire and smoke rose in a giant cloud. The beam carved a long, glowing scar across the land. Hundreds of thousands of people vanished in that first strike. Homes, schools, hospitals, gone. John pulled Laura close as the shockwave hit. They were far enough from the center to stay on their feet, but the wind pushed them hard. Glass broke all around them. Alarms screamed from every direction. People ran and shouted. Smoke filled the air. John looked at Laura. Her face was pale. She stared at the rising fireball where their neighborhood used to be. "Laura, are you hurt?" John asked quickly. She shook her head. "No, but my sister lives there, in the East District." John's stomach dropped. He knew many families in that area. Friends, kids he had met at school events. He grabbed his comm device. It buzzed with panic. Reports came in fast. The strike was not random. It was aimed. Casualties in the hundreds of thousands, maybe more. Hospitals were full already, and more wounded kept coming. High above, on the vanguard of order, Admiral Xath watched the results. The beam had hit perfectly. The relay station, if there ever was one, was gone. He turned to his officers. "Send the message to Earth. Tell them this is what happens when they push too far. Next time, we will not be so kind." The officers nodded. They thought the humans would back down now. They thought fear would make them listen. They were wrong. On the ground, John helped pull people from broken buildings. Dust covered his uniform. Blood stained his hands from helping the wounded. Sirens wailed. Medical teams ran everywhere. Laura worked beside him, using her engineering tools to lift heavy pieces of metal so others could escape. They did not stop to rest. There was no time. Hours passed. The first clear reports came in. The attackers were the Galactic Concorde. They had fired what they called a warning. To humans, it was murder on a massive scale. John stood on a hill overlooking the ruined city. The scar glowed red in the distance. Smoke blocked the sun. He thought of all the lives lost. He thought of his own crew on the Independence, waiting for orders. His comm buzzed again. It was from Fleet Command. "Captain Harris, report to the Independence immediately. We are going to Condition Red. All ships prepare for war." John looked at Laura. She nodded. "Go," she said. "They need you up there." He kissed her quickly. "Stay safe. I'll come back." She forced a smile. "You better." John ran to the spaceport. Shuttles were taking off one after another. Injured people filled every seat they could. He climbed aboard the last shuttle to the Independence. As it rose, he looked down at New Haven. The planet he loved now carried a wound that would never fully heal. In orbit, the Independence waited. Its hull was dark gray and strong. Guns lined its sides. John stepped onto the bridge. The crew stood at attention. Their faces were hard. Many had families on the surface. Many had lost someone today. "Captain on the bridge," the first officer said. John took his seat. He looked at the main screen. The vanguard of order was already moving away, heading out of the system. They thought they had won. John spoke in a steady voice. "All hands, this is the captain. The Concorde fired on our home. They killed our people. They thought we would run. They were wrong." He paused. The bridge was silent. "Set course to Rally Point Alpha. We join the fleet. We find them. And we make sure they never do this again." The crew answered as one. "Yes, sir." The Independence turned. Engines flared bright. The ship jumped into faster-than-light drive. Below on the scarred surface, Laura Harris looked up at the sky. She wiped dirt from her face. She whispered to herself, "Come back to me, John." Far away, the stars watched in silence. The Concorde had fired a warning at what they thought was the wrong place. But it was the right place for something else. It was the place where humanity learned how to answer. The attack on New Haven changed everything. In one bright flash, the Galactic Concorde turned a quiet morning into a day of fire and loss. Across every human world, people stopped what they were doing. They watched the news feeds. They saw the glowing scar on their sister planet. They saw the lists of names grow longer every hour. Anger rose fast, but so did something stronger. Unity. On Earth, President Matthew Brooks stood in front of cameras in the rebuilt Capitol building. The room was quiet, except for the soft hum of lights. His face looked tired, but his voice was clear and firm. "Today, an alien force struck our people without warning. They killed hundreds of thousands of our citizens. They thought this would make us afraid. They thought we would beg for peace. They were wrong. This is not just an attack on New Haven. This is an attack on all of us. From this moment, we stand as one. We will defend our homes. We will answer this crime." The speech ended, and the room exploded with sound. Cheers, tears, people hugged strangers in the streets. Old enemies shook hands. Companies that once fought over contracts now shared their factories. Scientists who worked alone now joined teams. Humanity had not felt this together in a long time. In orbit around New Haven, the fleet gathered. Ships from every corner of human space arrived one after another. Big battleships, fast destroyers, repair vessels, even old cargo haulers with guns added in a hurry. The United Earth Defense Fleet moved into action like a body waking up. Admiral Nicole Rivera took command of the emergency fleet. She was a short woman with sharp eyes and short black hair. People said she never raised her voice, but when she spoke, everyone listened. She had spent years studying alien tactics. She knew the Concorde thought humans were weak because they were new. Now she would show them how wrong they were. Nicole called her top officers to a secure bunker deep under the ruins of Haven Prime. The walls still smelled of smoke. Lights flickered because power was still being fixed. Rear Admiral Daniel Kim sat at one end of the table. He was calm and careful, always thinking 3 steps ahead. Commodore Ashley Torres sat next to him. She was younger, with bright red hair and a quick mind for bold plans. They looked at maps on the big screen. Red marks showed where the vanguard of order had gone. It was heading to a system called Krellis Verge. This was no mistake, Nicole said. They picked what they thought was an empty rock. They hit our biggest colony instead. They killed our families, our children, our future. We do not talk peace yet, not until they understand what they have done. Daniel nodded slowly. Their charts are old. They did not update them. They saw machines and thought no people lived here. Now they will learn. Ashley leaned forward. We hit them fast, before they can call for help, before they build more ships. We find their bases. We break them. Nicole looked at each of them. We build the biggest fleet in our history. Every shipyard works day and night. We pull every ship from storage. We arm every freighter that can carry a gun, and we go after them. The meeting ended. Orders went out. Factories on a dozen worlds roared to life. Workers stayed through the night. Machines printed parts faster than ever. Engineers tested new weapons in secret labs. Pilots trained in simulators until their eyes burned. Captain John Harris arrived at the Independence just as the ship prepared to leave orbit. He walked onto the bridge. His uniform was still dirty from the surface. His eyes looked heavy. He had not slept. He had spent the last hours helping on the ground, pulling people from rubble, holding hands of the dying. She was listed as missing. Her last message to him was simple. I'm helping at the hospital. Stay safe. Then, silence. The first officer met him at the door. Captain, welcome back. We have new orders. Rally at Point Alpha. Full combat readiness. John nodded. He took his seat. The chair felt cold. He looked at the main screen. New Haven turned slowly below. The scar was still red and angry. He thought of Laura's smile that morning. He thought of the children who would never come home from school. A message came through. It was from Fleet Command. John had been promoted. Acting Fleet Liaison for the strike group. They needed someone who had seen the attack up close. Someone who would not forget. John stood up. The bridge crew watched him. Listen, he said. His voice was low but clear. Many of you have families down there. Many of you lost someone. I lost someone too. My wife is missing. I do not know if she is alive. But I know this. The Concorde thought they could hit us and walk away. They thought we would cry and hide. We will not. We will find them. We will make them pay, not with anger, with strength, with everything we have. The crew answered with quiet nods. Some wiped their eyes. Others checked their stations again. The ship felt alive with purpose. John turned to navigation. Set course for Rally Point Alpha. Best possible speed. Engines hummed. The Independence pulled away from New Haven. Other ships joined them. A long line of gray hulls stretched into the dark. They moved like wolves that had smelled blood. On the surface, Laura Harris worked in what was left of a hospital. The building had half fallen, but doctors still treated patients in the open air. She carried water. She held bandages. She talked to scared children. Her hands shook sometimes, but she kept going. Every time she looked up at the sky, she hoped to see John's ship. She whispered his name, like a promise. News spread fast through the colonies. People on distant worlds heard about the attack. They saw videos of the scar. They saw parents crying over empty beds. They felt the same fire. Volunteers signed up by the millions. Ships that had never fought before now flew flags of war. In a small room on Earth, President Brooks met with his advisors. One of them asked, "Sir, do we try to talk first?" Matthew looked out the window at the stars. "We tried to talk for years. They ignored us. They thought we were nothing. Now they will listen, but only after we speak with our ships." The fleet grew, day by day, ship by ship. The Concorde had fired a warning. They thought it would end things. Instead, it woke something old and strong in humanity. Something that did not forgive easy. Something that answered in fire and steel. John Harris stood on the bridge as the Independence jumped to faster-than-light speed. Stars stretched into lines around them. He touched the small photo of Laura he kept in his pocket. "I'm coming," he said quietly. The galaxy waited. The Concorde had made their move. Now it was humanity's turn. Humanity did not wait long. 72 hours after the plasma lance hit New Haven, the answer began. Shipyards across the stars worked without pause. Sparks flew from welders. Cranes lifted huge metal plates into place. Old ships that had sat quiet for years now glowed with fresh paint and new guns. Factories printed missiles faster than anyone thought possible. People worked double shifts. Some did not sleep. They said the same thing over and over. Never again. Admiral Nicole Rivera stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Liberty's Dawn. The ship was new, built in secret over the last 5 years. Its hull was smooth and dark. Its engines were the strongest humans had ever made. Nicole looked at the star map. Red dots showed Concorde bases. The closest big one was Krellis Verge. That was where the vanguard of order had run to hide. "We hit them now," Nicole said to her officers. "Fast and hard. No warning, no mercy." They gave us none. Rear Admiral Daniel Kim stood beside her. He pointed to a cluster of dots. "Their picket ships guard the outer edge. We can slip through if we come from many directions at once." Commodore Ashley Torres smiled a little. "I like that. Split the fleet. Make them chase shadows. Then we strike the heart." Nicole nodded. "Captain Harris will lead the first group. 3 heavy cruisers and 20 corvettes. Fast and mean. You find the vanguard, pin it down, the main fleet follows." John Harris listened from his ship, the Independence. He stood tall on the bridge. His face was hard now. The grief had turned into something cold and sharp. He touched the photo of Laura in his pocket, one last time. Then he gave the order. "Jump in 3 minutes. All ships ready." The strike group vanished into faster-than-light space. When they came out, they were spread wide across the edge of Krellis Verge. Stars looked different here. The Concorde ships floated in neat lines, calm and sure of themselves. They did not expect trouble so soon. The first Concorde frigates saw the human ships too late. Alarms screamed on their bridge. Before the captain could shout orders, railgun rounds punched through their hull. Metal tore open. Air rushed out. The ship broke in half with a silent flash. More human corvettes appeared. They moved like a swarm of angry insects. Concorde destroyers turned to fight. Their energy shields lit up blue. But human kinetic weapons did not care about shields much. Big steel slugs hit at speeds no alien ship could match. Shields cracked, then broke. One Concorde cruiser after another exploded in bright fireballs. John watched from the Independence. His voice stayed calm. "Target their engines. Leave the bridges intact. Let them see what happens." A Concorde heavy cruiser tried to run. It fired back with plasma beams. One hit the Independence on the side. Lights flickered. Damage alarms rang. Crew ran to fix it. John did not flinch. Return fire. Full spread. The Independence answered with a storm of missiles and railgun bursts. The Concorde cruiser lost its main engine. It spun slowly, leaking fire and gas. The crew on the bridge of that alien ship stared at their screens in shock. They had never seen humans fight like this. John opened a channel to all ships. His words went out on open frequency so the Concorde could hear. You fired on our home. You killed our people. We are coming for yours. The message echoed through the system. Concorde captains looked at each other. Some ordered retreat. Others tried to fight harder. It did not matter. The human swarm pressed in. Corvettes darted between bigger ships, firing point blank. Cruisers held the line with heavy guns. One by one, Concorde vessels went dark. In the main fleet, Daniel Kim led the battle line. His ships jumped in behind the first wave. They formed a wall of steel. When the Concorde tried to regroup, Daniel's battleships opened fire. Long-range torpedoes streaked across the void. They found weak points in alien armor. Explosions bloomed like flowers of death. Ashley Torres commanded the fast raiders. Her ships were small but quick. They slipped past the fighting and hit supply depots on the far side of the system. Fuel stations burned. Ammo dumps exploded. The Concorde lost their way to resupply. Panic spread on their command channels. Admiral Xoth watched from his dreadnought. The Vanguard of Order was the biggest ship in the system. Its guns could destroy worlds. But now it sat surrounded. Human ships circled it like wolves around a wounded bear. Xoth's officers shouted reports. Losses were high, too high. Call for reinforcements, Xoth ordered. We hold here. But the message went out weak. Human jammers blocked most of it. What got through sounded desperate. John's strike group closed in on the Vanguard. The Independence took another hit. A plasma lance grazed the hull. Armor melted in places. Crew sealed compartments. John felt the ship groan under the strain. Keep pushing, he said. We end this. A wing of corvettes flew close. They dropped mines in the Vanguard's path. The dreadnought turned to avoid them. That gave the Independence a clear shot. John gave the order. All batteries, fire on my mark. The ship lit up. Every gun spoke at once. Shells slammed into the Vanguard's forward shields. They flickered and died. Secondary explosions rippled along the hull. The big ship listed to one side. Concorde crew tried to fight back. Their beams hit the Independence again. John's ship lost power to half its guns. Smoke filled corridors, but the humans did not stop. John looked at his tactical screen. The Vanguard was hurt bad. Engines failing. Weapons going silent. He could finish it now. Hold fire, he said suddenly. The bridge crew looked at him. Let them run, John said. Let them take the message home. Let their leaders see what a warning costs. The Independence pulled back just enough. The Vanguard limped away, trailing fire and debris. Its escape was slow and painful. Every alien who saw it knew the truth. Humans had not just defended, they had hunted. The battle at Krellis Verge ended in less than 2 hours. Concorde losses were heavy. 7 cruisers gone, dozens of smaller ships destroyed. Human ships were damaged, some badly, but most still flew. Repair crews worked fast in the aftermath. Nicole received the report on her bridge. She allowed a small smile. Good, the first answer is sent. Now we go deeper. John stood on his damaged bridge. Crew cheered quietly. He did not smile. He thought of Laura. He thought of the scar on New Haven. This was only the start. The stars watched as human ships turned toward the next target. The Concorde had thought one shot would be enough. Now they learned that humanity answered with everything. And they were just getting warmed up. The victory at Krellis Verge spread fast. Human ships returned to friendly ports with battle scars and stories. Crews told how the Concord ships broke apart under railgun fire, how their big dreadnought ran away trailing smoke. People on every colony watched the recordings. They cheered in bars and homes. But the leaders knew one battle was not enough. The Concord still had power. They still had ships. They still thought they could recover. Admiral Nicole Rivera stood in the war room of the Liberty's Dawn. The ship floated in deep space, hidden near a dark nebula. Screens showed maps of Concord territory. Red lines marked their supply routes. Blue dots showed human scout positions. Nicole pointed to a bright star system far inside enemy lines. Zorath Prime, she said. Their main shipyard. They build most of their fleet there. If we hit it, they lose the war in one stroke. Rear Admiral Daniel Kim studied the map. It is deep. Heavy defenses. Mine fields. They will see us coming from far away. Commodore Ashley Torres crossed her arms. Then we do not let them see us. We go in quiet. Use captured Concord data from Krellis. Their codes. Their jump paths. We slip past the outer rings. Nicole looked at her officers. This is not a normal attack. This is a raid. Small force, fast ships, in and out. We take what we can. We burn what we must. And we show them we can reach their heart. The plan took shape quickly. Ashley would lead. She picked stealth frigates and fast assault carriers. They carried Marines trained for zero-gravity fighting, boarding teams, sabotage experts. The ships left quietly, one by one, on staggered jumps. No big fleet, no announcements, just shadows moving through the dark. Captain John Harris asked to join. His Independence was damaged, but repaired fast. New armor plates covered the old burns. Guns were reloaded, and crew was ready. John met Ashley on her flagship before departure. I want in, he said. The Vanguard hurt us. I want to see their shipyard burn. Ashley looked at him. She saw the cold fire in his eyes. You lead the forward strike. Your group hits the main docks first. We follow. John returned to his ship. The crew felt the change. They moved with purpose. No jokes. No complaints. They knew what this meant. The raid began 3 days later. The stealth ships jumped into the outer edges of Zorath Prime. They stayed dark. No signals, no lights. They drifted past sensor buoys, using stolen Concord transponder codes. One frigate got too close to a patrol. A Concord scout ship scanned them. For a long second, everyone held their breath. Then the scout moved on. The codes worked. Closer in, the shipyard appeared on screens. Huge rings of metal floated around the planet. Dry docks held half-built dreadnoughts. Thousands of workers, alien and machine, labored day and night. It was the heart of the Concord war machine. Ashley gave the signal, go. John's group broke formation. The Independence and 2 cruisers accelerated hard. They dropped mines behind them to block escape routes. Then they opened fire. Railguns spat steel at the nearest orbital station. Shields flared, then cracked. The station exploded in a slow bloom of fire. Debris rained down on the docks below. Concord alarms screamed across the system. Ships scrambled, but it was too late. Ashley's carriers arrived next. They launched waves of fighters and boarding pods. Marines in heavy armor flew toward the big construction rings. They cut through hulls. They planted charges. They fought hand-to-hand with Concord security teams. On the ground of Zorath Prime, Lieutenant Kevin Brooks led one Marine squad. Kevin was young, the president's nephew, but he had earned his place with hard fights. His team stormed a command center. They kicked in doors. They shot guards who resisted. Inside, they found the main control room. Screens showed the chaos outside. Aliens in uniforms stared in shock. Kevin pointed his rifle. Hands up. Step away from the consoles. One alien officer tried to reach an alarm. A Marine shot him. The others froze. Kevin walked to the main terminal. He plugged in a data spike. Human viruses spread fast. They locked out controls. They opened docking clamps. Ships under repair fell free and crashed into each other. Explosions chained across the yard. High above, John's Independence faced a Concorde battlecruiser that had rushed to defend. The enemy ship fired plasma lances. One hit the Independence midsection. Bulkheads buckled. Air vented. Crew sealed sections. John kept the ship steady. "Target their bridge," he ordered. Guns answered. Slugs punched through armor. The ship lost control and drifted into a construction arm. Both exploded together in a bright flash. Ashley's raiders moved deeper. They hit fuel depots. Tanks ruptured. Fire spread across platforms. They destroyed assembly lines. Giant cranes toppled. The shipyard that once built worlds of steel now burned like a torch. In the command center, Kevin's team found something important. Old charts, digital files, records of how the Concorde saw humans. They called Earth colonies temporary infestations. They marked population centers as low priority. They had known New Haven had people. They just did not care. They thought one shot would break the will of a young species. Kevin recorded it all. He sent the data back to the fleet. When humanity saw those files later, the anger grew hotter. The raid lasted less than 4 hours. Concorde reinforcements arrived too late. Human ships pulled out fast. They left mines and sensor jammers behind. The Concorde chased shadows, while the raiders jumped away. Back at the rally point, Ashley reported to Nicole. Mission success. Shipyard crippled. Production stopped for years. We lost 6 frigates, heavy casualties, but we hurt them bad. Nicole nodded. And the files? Confirmed. They knew. They still fired. Nicole looked at the star map. Then we keep going. No mercy. John stood on his bridge. The Independence was hurt again. Decks were dark in places. Crew patched holes. He thought of Laura. Still no word. Missing lists grew shorter as bodies were found. Hope faded, but he did not let it break him. Across the galaxy, other species watched. Small empires that lived under Concorde rule saw the news. They whispered. Some cut supply lines quietly. Others sent secret messages to human scouts. The myth of Concorde power cracked. Fear changed sides. On a Concorde command station, Admiral Kazath stared at reports. His dreadnought still limped from Krellis. Now Zorath Prime burned. Losses were too high. He tried to send peace offers through back channels. No answer came. Humanity had not asked for war, but when it came, they answered. And their answer echoed louder every day. The Concorde learned something new. Humans did not fight for glory. They fought for home. And when home was hurt, they did not stop until the threat was gone. John looked out at the stars. We are not done, he said quietly. The fleet turned toward the next target. The war was far from over. But humanity had shown it could reach anywhere. Even the places the Concorde thought were safe. Months passed since the first shot hit New Haven. The war had spread across many star systems. Human ships pushed deeper into Concorde space. Every battle made the Concorde weaker. Their old fleets broke apart. Their supply lines dried up. Their leaders argued in dark rooms. They had never faced an enemy like this. Humans did not conquer for land or gold. They fought to make sure no one could hurt their homes again. Admiral Nicole Rivera stood on the bridge of the Liberty's Dawn. The flagship now led the biggest fleet humanity had ever built. Hundreds of ships followed in tight formation, battleships with fresh scars, carriers full of fighters, support ships loaded with supplies. They moved like a gray tide toward the core worlds of the Concorde, the last line of defense. Nicole looked at the main screen. It showed the Concorde home system. Big planets, ancient stations, massive defense grids. She turned to her officers. "This is it," she said. "The final push. We end this today." Rear Admiral Daniel Kim checked his console. Their fleet is down to 30% strength. Many ships are damaged. Crews are tired. They know we are coming. Commodore Ashley Torres smiled. "They tried to talk peace last week. We did not answer. Now they will listen." Captain John Harris stood on the Independence. His ship had taken hits in every fight. New patches covered old wounds. The crew was smaller now. Some faces were gone forever, but the ones who remained were hard and ready. John touched the photo of Laura again. He had received a message 2 weeks ago. She was alive. Hurt, but alive. She worked in a hospital on a safe colony. She told him to come home when it was over. That kept him going. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light space, just outside the Concorde core. Alarms sounded on both sides. Concorde ships formed a wall. Their big guns turned toward the humans. Energy shields glowed bright. Nicole opened a channel to the entire fleet. Her voice went to every bridge. "This is Admiral Rivera. The Concorde fired on our people. They killed our families. They thought we would break. We did not. Today we finish what they started. Fight well. Fight together. For home." The fleet answered with one voice. Engines flared. Ships moved forward. The battle began. Concorde dreadnoughts fired first. Plasma lances crossed the void. Human shields lit up. Some ships took hits. Explosions bloomed, but the human line did not break. Railguns answered. Long steel slugs slammed into alien hulls. Shields cracked. Armor tore. One Concorde ship after another lost power and drifted. John led his strike group on the left flank. The Independence charged straight at a cluster of enemy cruisers. Missiles flew out in waves. Fighters swarmed around like angry bees. Concorde beams hit the Independence hard. A deck vented air. Lights went red. Crew sealed bulkheads. John kept the ship steady. "Target the lead ship," he ordered. "Full barrage." Guns roared. The Concorde cruiser broke in half. Fire spread to the next ship. The flank collapsed. In the center, Daniel Kim held the main line. His battleships formed a tight wall. They soaked up fire so the carriers could launch more fighters. Ashley's raiders slipped through gaps. They hit command ships from behind. Chaos grew on the Concorde side. Admiral Kazath watched from his battered command station. The vanguard of order was gone, destroyed in the second month of the war. Now he stood on a smaller platform. Screens showed red warnings everywhere. Losses were too high. Ships failed. Crews gave up. He opened a channel to the human fleet. His voice shook a little. "This is Admiral Kazath of the Galactic Concorde. We request immediate ceasefire. We are willing to discuss terms." Nicole let the message play on every human bridge. She waited a long moment. Then she answered. "You fired a warning on our world. You killed our people. You thought we were weak. Now you ask for peace. We accept only one thing: unconditional surrender. You give up your core worlds. You let our forces enter your government. You accept observers forever. Or we continue until nothing is left." Silence followed. Kazath looked at his officers. Some nodded slowly. Others looked away. The fight was over. Hours later, the Concorde fleet stood down. Guns powered off. Shields dropped. Ships opened bays. Human boarding teams moved in. They took control without more blood. Kazath transmitted the formal surrender. His words were simple. "We misjudged you. We thought one strike would stop you. We were wrong. The Galactic Concorde surrenders to the United Earth Defense Fleet." The war ended that day. In the aftermath, human ships took station around Concorde worlds. Engineers built new stations. Observers watched every meeting. The Concorde learned to share power. They learned to respect the young species they once ignored. On New Haven, The scar slowly healed. People rebuilt. New buildings rose where the old ones fell. A tall memorial stood in Haven Prime. Names covered the stone, thousands of them. Laura Harris walked there often. She traced her sister's name with her finger. She thought of the friends she lost. She thought of John. John came home months later. The Independence docked in orbit. He took a shuttle down. Laura waited at the spaceport. She wore a simple coat. Her arm was in a sling from the old wound. She smiled when she saw him. He ran to her. They held each other for a long time. No words, just the quiet sound of breathing. They walked to the memorial together. John looked at the names. He saw friends, crewmates, strangers who became family in the fight. He placed a small flower at the base. Laura spoke softly. "It's over." John nodded. "It's over." The galaxy changed. Old powers stepped back. New alliances formed. Small species that once feared the Concord now traded freely with humans. Stories spread. They said never fire on a human world. They said humans do not forget. They said when humans answer, the stars listen. Years later, children on New Haven learned about the war in school. They heard how one plasma lance woke a sleeping giant. They heard how humanity turned pain into strength. They stood at the memorial and read the names. They promised to remember. John and Laura lived quietly after that. They watched sunsets from their new home. They talked about the past. They looked at the stars without fear. The Concord never forgot their mistake. They had fired a warning at what they thought was the wrong planet. It was the one that answered. And the answer echoed through time. Humanity had spoken. The stars grew quieter after that, and a little more careful.